Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining AireSpring today for our sixth annual State of the Channel Industry Roundtable. We're pleased to have a distinguished panel of senior executives from the top technology services distributors participate today in this conversation, and I'll introduce them by alphabetical order per company. We have Emmanuel Bertolone with AppDirect. He's the Chief Revenue Officer with AppDirect. Rick Reed, Vice President of Sales Strategy at AVANT. Brian Miller, Chief Revenue Officer and co-founder of Bridgepointe. Ken Mills, President of Intelisys. Ryan Yakos, Senior VP at Sandler Partners. And Adam Edwards, CEO of Telarus. Our moderator today is Mr. Jay McBain. He's the Chief Analyst at Omdia. Before we get started, AireSpring CEO Avi Lanzi would like to say a few words. Avi?
All right. Thank you, Ellen. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for joining us at AireSpring's that's the sixth annual State of the Channel Industry Roundtable. I'm extremely grateful to each of the representatives from 6 of the leading TSDs in our industry who have joined us today to help us gain insight into the rapidly evolving and expanding channel. I can say without a doubt that this group represents the most innovative companies in our industry who have rewritten the rules for enterprise and business selling motions, making the indirect channel the preferred method for distribution and growth. Anyone who takes a visit to the upcoming Channel Partners Expo in Las Vegas will recognize just how well they have executed. And I believe we all owe them our gratitude for helping to ignite the fire under the indirect channel. AireSpring is proud to have been 100% dedicated to the success of the channel for 25 years, and our commitment remains as strong as ever. A special thank you to Jay McBain for moderating today's discussion and helping us dig deeper into the issues and topics that matter most to all of us. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Jay to guide the discussion. Jay?
Well, thank you so much. Pleased to be here. And I was saying before the show started that there is no place, and trust me, we track all 1,000 places in our industry. There's no place to find all 6 together on one panel. And my company, Informa, runs CP Expo and a lot of the events and magazines and stuff around this. But this is literally the one place that we can come to get this industry. We did some research. This industry is a $16.6 billion industry. It's growing at 14.5%. What's interesting is that growth number, is faster than the growth of cybersecurity. It's faster than the growth of managed services. It's actually one of the fastest growth things that we're tracking. And these 6 companies represent 72.3% of that big industry. And again, we track other industries, and usually the top 5 or 6 companies might do 50 or 60% of a market, but this is a highly concentrated market. These are the major players. And I kind of wanted to open it up with that. We're within a week here of closing off Q1. Obviously, challenges almost coming from every direction, but also opportunities coming on the other side. So wanted to get a perspective of where we are as we're kind of closing Q1 and how we're thinking about 2026 as opposed to maybe how we were thinking about it a couple of weeks or a couple of months ago. And I'll kind of go in alphabetical order by person this time. So Adam, why don't you kick us off?
Sure. Thoughts on first quarter. It is a phenomenal time to be in the channel. Anytime there is change, there's a period of innovation right now with AI. It's moving faster than ever. That means people have questions, concerns. They're trying to make changes within their business. That means they need someone along their side, and that means there's goodness for advisors. So in our view, it's a great time to be in the space.
Great. Brian?
Yeah, thanks, Jay. So we've had record-setting growth. Our fourth quarter results were, the best in company history. First quarter is going to be significantly higher than that. But just to echo what Adam said, the opportunity for all of us in the channel right now is unprecedented. So, I always say, only the paranoid survive. So, things are great now, but you never know when the music's going to stop. So we're working really hard here to take advantage. And we want that $16.6 billion market cap because we don't have it today, or market opportunity because we don't have it today.
And I think the person who wrote the book on that was at Intel, and that tweet is not aging as well as it could. But Emmanuel.
Yeah, thanks, Jay, and Avi, thanks as well for hosting this forum. It's great. Look, from AppDirect's perspective, I echo the same comments as Brian Adam. We've had really strong numbers, year-over-year growth. Both Q4 and Q1 is shaping up really strong as well. And I attribute a lot of that to, yeah, there's just a lot of motion in the market. We obviously focus a lot on multi-category and having a lot of expansion in advisors, selling multi-category. And there's just a lot of movement in these categories. Energy right now, for example, is hot with everything going on. People are really locking in on energy. So we're seeing tremendous growth in those areas amongst, all of our tech wheels sort of products. So yeah, really exciting time in the channel and pretty bullish about the year as well.
That's great. Ken?
Yeah, I think what's, not to take everything Adam said, but I agree. There's a great opportunity for the channel. The market's expanding. If you look at the different routes to market that our channel now has access to, that's really exciting. Marketplaces to different products, expanding the wallet share and opportunity for our channel partners, different suppliers entering the market every day. So I think that market size that you show is only going to be significantly bigger as we go forward, as the opportunity continues to grow for the advisors on this call and those that may watch this later. It's never been a better time to be in front of your customers, helping them transform their businesses with all the great opportunities and routes to market that we offer.
Well, that's great. Thanks, Ken. Rick?
Yeah, Jay, I mean, again, thank you to AireSpring for putting this on, and thank you for all the trusted advisors for being here today. But I'll tell you, I agree. It's an exciting time. There's no better time to be a trusted advisor in this space. And I mean, Jay, you reported this. Last year was a great year for AVANT, our trusted advisors. We had, in the mid-20s from a growth perspective. So we were pretty excited about 2025. And I got to tell you, 2026, I mean, the first quarter, we're seeing bigger and even more complex deals. Everyone's talking about AI, but guess what? Network is sexy. Everyone's looking at their network transformation. And I mean, data center is just absolutely exploded. I mean, we're looking for a gigawatt of power as we speak and working some of the most complex, biggest deals that we ever have. So it's an exciting time. Q1's looking great, and we're super excited for 2026.
Yeah, a massive correlation between AI and the data center and the networking to drive it. So we're absolutely seeing a $7 trillion build out, and we're seeing the growth in this market. So appreciate that. Ryan?
Yeah, first off, Jay, thanks for having me on. This is always a great conversation. And just to add on to what everybody else said, I've never seen, from a Sandler Partners standpoint, we're focusing more on training and development right now with our partners than we ever have in the past. Our foot is on the pedal to help them solve these complexities because that's where all the opportunity lies. So I've seen more and more than I've seen in the past years, just the need from the partner standpoint, and giving them accessibility to not only the tools but all the resources that we have internally to help them win deals and get drive the business outcomes. So it's a great time for all of us here at the panel.
That's great. So this is the only question that you're forced to agree with each other. So now we can start the dust up now. But you all agreed, and I think we all agree. Everyone that's here, over 400 participants are live right now and growing. We all agree. It's a great time. The tech industry has been the fastest growing industry for 56 years in a row. Ever since the day after we stepped on the moon, it moved from the space race to the technology race. This year will be $6.07 trillion of tech and telco. If you look at it in terms of a dollar a customer spends, about 25 cents is spent on hardware, about 25 cents is spent on software, just over 25 cents now is spent on IT services, and just under 25 cents on telco services. So that's a pretty even split of where our industry is 56 years later. And it's going to continue to be the fastest growing industry. So I can't understate the great place that we're in. But the talk of the channel, if we kind of go to transactions for a moment, 66.7% of that 6 trillion will actually be transacted by the channel this year, 2/3, and 96% of all that number will be channel assisted in some way. And that could be referral, it could be consulting, it could be design and implementation, managed service, all kinds of things, hundreds of things. So I want Brian maybe to dig in with you. What is kind of that state of the channel? I know it's strong, but what are you seeing kind of in the next 12 months, and where are partners inside of that number?
Yeah, so I think just in general, accurate technology decisions are more critical than ever, just across the board, every vertical, every industry. So we're seeing traditional buyers that are now in boardroom settings and talking about strategy and outcomes, which wasn't necessarily the case in years past. However, and this plays into your question, they may leave that meeting with next steps, but don't have the time, expertise, resources, and evaluation and implementation and ongoing management of what needs to be stood up. And this is where an extremely competent partner can help. And additionally to that, many times these new initiatives require incremental budget that is non-existent. So it's another place in which customers can leverage a partner to help in finding savings in other parts of their spend to fund these new investments.
That's great. So, Rick, you mentioned the complexity of deals increasing kind of in this AI era. What's your take kind of in the channel and the importance, inside that customer journey?
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I think what's really exciting around that is just the opportunity that sits in front of us, right? So, Bain came out with a study late last year, which is really good, I think, for all of us and for all the trusted advisors, that the total addressable market now is up to $165 billion and growing 10% annually. So that's just a huge marketplace for us, right? If you think about what I think is really exciting as well, is we see a lot of trusted advisors that are looking to move into that mid-market and even into that enterprise space, right? One stat that I'd like to share is, like, from an AVANT perspective for sales in 2025, over 31% of our sales were to customers that were $1 billion and above, right? So that shows that we're seeing that uptick in that enterprise space. The other thing as well that I think is pretty interesting, that's very bullish on the market from the trusted advisor perspective, we do a state of disruption report every year. One of the questions we ask to over 500 C-level customers is, do you plan to use a trusted advisor in your next buying decision? 4 years ago, 60% of those folks said yes. When we asked the same question last year, it was 81%. So 4 out of every 5 of those C-levels are said, yes, I'm going to use a trusted advisor in my next buying decision. And that's at the mid-market enterprise space. So again, we're pretty excited about where this is going and the maturity of the industry in that part of the market, Jay.
Well, that's great. So, kind of flipping to challenges for a minute. I mean, there's a number of them. Think about margins, think about, recurring revenue as a percentage of the total. Thinking of, the average advisor out there, the average VAR, the average managed service provider. When we ask sentiment questions, kind of how do you feel? A year ago, in first quarter of last year, 85% of people were, strapped onto a rocket ship and, thinking that, we're growing gangbuster. And every quarter that's dropped for a bunch of psychological reasons, a lot of times more so than, actual results reasons. But we now have over 30% of partners thinking they're declining by double digits. So this is a concern for a big number of the audience. So love to ask maybe Ryan, what separates, kind of that top third to the middle third to maybe the ones that are struggling on margins or struggling in terms of, where they see the outlook for this year?
Yeah, I think from the partners' perspective in the field, the partners that are succeeding are the ones that are, executing and using the tools and resources. And I think their role has changed from no longer a distributor of technology, but basically a simplifier of and an orchestrator of technology. I mean, the businesses are now focused on business outcomes in these buying decisions. The technology spend and stack has spread into many new and different technologies, and there's just not enough internal resources at even these mid-market enterprise organizations to be able to confidently make the right decisions for their business. So I think the ones that are separating themselves from the pack, Jay, are the ones that are, leaning in on the resources here at this in this roundtable, because we're the jack of many trades, and their goal is to simplify that process and make it safe. So when they're exploring AI, they're exploring different technologies, they can know confidently somebody's coming and simplifying it for their business and making the right decisions. And at the end of the day, when the dust settles and the transformation is complete, would that business do this again? That's kind of the marker or the baseline that we work from, the waterline that we work from is, would you do this project again?
Yeah, that's great. So I'm going to ask Brian and Rick, but the rest of the panel, if you kind of want to raise your hand.
Hang on, Jay, before you do,
yeah.
I've got a question. It sounded like when you're talking about people in decline, you were mentioning MSPs and VARs, that 30% of them responded that they're seeing double-digit declines.
Yeah, so I mean, I posted yesterday on LinkedIn, our new PC forecast is down by double digits every which way you look at it. Every country, every segment, every product category. That could be linked to memory, shortages and increases in prices and changes in the market dynamic and geopolitics and stuff. But when I kind of broke down the $6 trillion, like there are headwinds, almost coming from every different angle. And about a third of the broader partner base in our industry is feeling it. So I'm just kind of, can we separate, the fastest growing partners at Telarus versus, those who are, trying to step up there versus, maybe those who are struggling?
Well, I think there's some nuance there because, what you mentioned before is this channel is growing faster than any of those industries. And what that means is this model is taking share. And people are moving away from an MSP and a pure VAR play. In fact, MSP, what's interesting is the scaled up MSP are now becoming some of our biggest suppliers because they don't add new logos. This channel does. And so I think in that, yes, there's concerns about oil prices and interest rates and on and on. And that does impact buying decisions. But I think we're somewhat insulated from that because customers are increasingly choosing to procure through this route. And so I don't think you would see a third of advisors reducing in volume. I think that the number would be much lower than that for those that aren't excelling and finding success simply for that difference of model.
Yeah.
So that's a good point for the broader partner channel as well as the broader vendor channel. There's 35,000 vendors we track that have a channel program. This model, maybe we dig a bit further into why it's insulated and why there's a greater opportunity to, find growing partners within it. So, these are the types of things that research is trying to tease out. But again, the 6 smartest people are in the room right now. So love to go further on that. Ken, you want to comment?
I think Adam, hit on a great point and I think Rick did as well, is the end users are choosing this route to market because they believe it brings a lot of value. The end users now are, certainly at the enterprise level, more aware of the advisor value proposition than ever before. And our advisors have had 30 plus years of experience of helping customers identify how to save dollars and move dollars from one project to another or refactor their expenses that they're spending in network and use them to deploy CX or use that to deploy cloud or use that to deploy AI. So a lot of these challenges that our customers are going through, our advisors have had many, many years of experience solving that for them. So, I think Adam's made a great point. They're picking up the phone and saying, hey, I need your help to make this transformation. And I think you're the channel to do it with.
I also think it's a very efficient channel.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big factor, right? I mean, advisors are becoming extremely efficient and they're adopting platforms and really leveraging the efficiency that this channel drives. And so it like transactional efficiency matters a lot. And the advisors have that trust, but they can also procure and deliver very efficiently through this channel. And I think that's a big factor as well as why the channel is succeeding.
Yeah, and I'd add in, Jay, is of the trusted advisors, which ones of those are willing to get uncomfortable? And what I mean by that, I talked about network exploding, but data centers exploding. Are they willing, as Ryan alluded to, are they willing to lean in with a TSD and get educated and trained to go in and make that part of their offering, right? Cybersecurity, I mean, that's our highest growing category for the 5th year in a row, right? We got Dr. Rick Mishkin, Stefan Summeroff. So are they willing to get uncomfortable with that? Because here's what we see. For all of our trusted advisors that sell at AVANT, on average, they sell 1.2 service lines. But for our top 50 trusted advisors, they sell 3.8 service lines to their customers. They're going deep and wide. And I mean, for our top 10 or 15, it's even 5 or 6, right? So again, back to that training and that education, really willing to get comfortable and really go deep and wide on those additional services, I think is separating the pack as well.
Yeah, and I think this is an important thing to deep dive on because we track 6,500 cybersecurity vendors. From your point, they're all trying to sell $106 billion this year in product, but partners make on average $2 for every dollar they make in services. So these are the product lines, and these are the things you're talking about.
Yeah.
So how do we, this industry, has been somewhat insulated as well. Some would call it a black box. But if you get a chance to be on stage in front of 6,500 CEOs or boards of the most important cybersecurity companies in the world, what makes this model different, and why is this a route to market that some of them might be sleeping on?
Yeah, I think they don't understand always how the model works, right? I mean, I think if we're all honest, it's not the easiest model to explain to someone at a barbecue as to how everything flows and who makes decisions. But once they really understand the power of the advisors to understand the customer needs, be an advocate for that customer, help them find the right solution, clearly working with our teams to do that, and then taking that solution from idea all the way through deployment and implementation and life cycle of that project, they see a tremendous value. I think one of the biggest things that suppliers sleep on with our advisors is that our advisors are just marketing machines. They sell the deal and they move away and they go sell another deal. And certainly there are some that's the route they take, but the really good ones, as you talked about previously, stay in the deal. They stay in the implementation process. They stay in after it's implemented to help the customer understand how to optimize it. They stay in for the next phase. They stay in for the renewal. They stay in for the life of that contract. And that's why you see such long retention rates with our advisors and their customers. And you're seeing such a high attach rate with deals, and you're seeing just deep relationships because of that stay in the game mentality that top advisors have.
Yeah, I mean, I'd add, Jay. I mean, I don't know if you saw the announcement yesterday, but we just inked an exclusive deal with Arctic Wolf.
Mm-hmm.
How long have trusted advisors been asking for Arctic Wolf? How many years have we been talking to Arctic Wolf to say, come take access of these 4,000 trusted advisors in the AVANT platform to go sell with them? You've got a full sales team there. So, it's just another example. Sometimes it takes time, and that's a big role of a TSD, not just to evaluate who's incoming, but to go educate some of these MSSPs as well of why they should take advantage. The TAs are thirsty to go sell through you.
And Jay, you can have 3 providers out there. SaaS companies, we see this all the time. You can have 3 or 4 providers have 5-star products, and implementation across the platform is a 2-star experience. And that's where the trusted advisor and the TA comes in, and make sure that those experiences and those implementations are 4 and 5-star. And I think when you look at these security companies, they're struggling to figure out how to go to market in their direct with their direct programs and their other distribution channels. So to have a whole nother layer of support there of consultants, and advisors that can make sure that this is an experience that drives their product, and drives that experience and that CSAT score, I think is, the part that's most valuable to all these companies.
Yeah, I was going to follow up with you, Ryan, because earlier you said tech stack in one of your answers, and we just talked about cyber, but there's so many more elements, to that tech stack. What are you seeing right now in terms of all the places that customers are, but what seem to be the places right now that seem to be the hottest?
Obviously everybody's trying to figure out how to utilize and implement AI into their organization, but the result of that is that they're solidifying their foundation. So, I mean, the sales are coming across the tech stack, and the opportunities are coming across everywhere from SASE to AI to infrastructure to cloud. Rick mentioned data centers not slowing down, co-location is not slowing down anytime soon. But at the end of the day, we're seeing massive wins, massive opportunities at Sandler Partners with opportunity, the contact center, the CX space, different places where customers realize that they have to solidify their foundation and make sure that the core of their house is built and established to a point where they can implement, the next generation of product sets. And we've seen this throughout from MPLS to SD-WAN to, contact center. We've seen this all across every, kind of the trailing effect of the next technology that's moving through the TSD channel.
Yeah. Any other comments on technology categories that seem to be really hot kind of in March of 2026?
I mean, I would tell you with us, when we're seeing the most success and where we tell our sellers to focus on our contact center projects and large co-location capacity needs. And we've closed more seven-figure a month plus deals in the last 12 months than the previous 23 years combined. Market is very competitive. There's not a deal that we don't get into that there's not multiple other channel partners in there. So differentiation and credibility is key, but the larger and more complex for us and the way we've built the company and our go-to-market better. Durability and churn is super critical in our business. And obviously the more intricate and unique of a project that we could sell, the harder it is for a customer, for it to be displaced. So it keeps the durability of the income stream.
Yeah, Jay, one of the products we're seeing that is really starting to move is AI itself. We created an agentic AI development platform and put that out into the channel, and essentially access to all the language models into one environment in a very secure fashion. And advisors are really picking it up and moving and selling seats to our devs.ai platform in a really quick way. I think AI has been hard to monetize for a lot of advisors, and we've created some products that have really started to monetize AI, and we're seeing the dollar volumes are not huge yet, but the acceleration of seats that we're seeing sell is a really leading indicator that I think this is a hot product moving forward for advisors.
Yeah, of all the thousands of areas of focus in AI and every job role being considered and the 95% failure rates that MIT was reporting late last year, that bright spot is that CX, customer experience, customer success, customer service. Yes. This is right at the heart of this channel. And again, for the broader set of the industry that wants to get into this market and get on the leading edge of AI, this is absolutely something customers want to talk about and want to set up projects and pilots and proof of concepts. That's one, ticket to be in the room is to get closer, with the 6 companies here to get into those conversations and go in armed. We probably talked for the whole hour on technology, but I want to shift because one of the interesting things is I think people that have been around a long time that are dialed in would have watched the consolidation in this industry, a lot of M&A and, maybe 25, TSDs, kind of coming down to the big 6, which represent, 75%. The flip side of platforms though is, are things getting less personal? Are we being sent, somewhere else when maybe 5 or 10 years ago, I felt it was more of a family thing. And now I go to a big party at CP Expo or, my rep gets changed every 3 months, and now I'm being sent to a marketplace instead of a person. And I'd love to just kind of get a sense for what are you hearing and how are you kind of battling the perception that while being bigger, could be better in terms of, more access to capital and more access to obviously enablement and other things, but there's a negative side to it as well. Maybe I'll point it to Ryan first and maybe Adam second to kind of tackle this question.
Yeah, I think one of the benefits of being bigger and the growth that we've seen is that we command better protection with contracts and financially for our partner community. It allows us to ask for more from the suppliers because we are helping orchestrate a large portion of the market share. I think the part that feels lost is, at Sandler Partners, we build all of our tools ourselves. We have some of the best tools in the industry. And, that gives us the advantage to listen to the partners still, even with scale and size. And, most recently with like our Scout tool, which is, for mostly transactional bandwidth, partners didn't always want to log into portals and be tied to chasing something down. So we used AI to implement a email platform where you could just email in, address or information what you want, and it not only engages a live person, but it gives you back results and contracts and pricing within minutes. So that's the part where you can scale but still not lose the traditional TA TSD relationship. And I think that as you scale, these tools are great. The marketplaces, are necessary, but you got to remember that the art of the sell with model and listening to the partner's needs is the most important piece of this. And we're all here because of relationships. And if those relationships start to die or start to get pushed out to the marketplace or somewhere else, it definitely destroys our model. And there is some risk there for sure.
So Adam, massive investments in marketplace and automation and AI and other things. How do you answer the question?
So TSDs as a necessity need to be scaled organizations, do their jobs. An advisor, you don't. You can be a single person, and if the customer says yes, you got the business. As a TSD, the value we're offering is protection. Your commissions are going to be paid on a recurring basis. You don't have a sales minimum. You sell what's best for the customer, and that may not be what you sold last month. And so there's got to be a sizable organization to protect, to pay commissions on time, but also to offer a wide portfolio. If you're not just the Cisco person that's certified Cisco and you have the ability to sell what the customer needs, then you need someone who's got the portfolio to support a portfolio. A TSD has got to have the volume to sustain and have the heft to be able to support additional products, bring intelligence, tools, engineers, et cetera, to add value to that. So I think your question, I heard two questions. Number one, does it get too big while you're not personal? I think that's a challenge of any scaling business of how do you give the benefits of scale and keep personal? And you can do that. I believe in cultural alignment, which means what the customer wants from our advisor is a relationship. They want a trusted experience. It turns out the advisor wants that from us as well as a TSD. So how do you keep support local, keep the context, understand who they are, how they go to market, et cetera? That's a structural question, and every business scaling works through that. We think we have done pretty well on weathering some of those storms, because there are storms as you're adjusting and becoming larger and smaller at the same time. But then how do you add that value? And going to marketplaces, I just don't buy it. If you're going to remodel your house, you're not going to Amazon. You're not going to go point and click of, yes, I'd like to build this addition on my house. You're going to sit down and talk with someone. We believe in what we call the augmented advisor, that if we can put data and reviews and insights and know-how and expertise around the advisor and give them the tools in their hand, sure, that may come through a marketplace setting where they're surfacing what supplier is best in this scenario, who should I be talking to, who performed best in an implementation in the past. But people are not just pointing and clicking. If they were, all these enterprises would just go to Amazon. They just go buy it for themselves. I believe most of the marketplaces right now are people have already made their decision. I know I'm going to buy this, therefore I'm going to that marketplace, and that's how I choose to procure to burn down my committed spend. But when you're making a consideration, I think it's much more like the financial advisors found in robo investing. Robo investing was introduced 15 years ago. The demise of the financial advisor was predicted. We don't need them anymore. We got the bots. The truth is, it's a lot more nuanced. What you see now, by the way, financial advisory, bigger than ever. They are augmented by robo investing. They are augmented by tax loss harvesting and all these cool tools. They put them in the advisor's hands, and I believe that's what marketplaces are going to look like for our advisors. Is yes, you're going to be able to sort through and surface reputable firms that the TSD and your peers have had experience with. You're going to get confidence there in showing that to your customer. But are they going to point and click? Probably not with some consideration.
Yeah.
That's great. Emmanuel, I want to move to you because, AppDirect, the other side of AppDirect, runs one of the largest, most successful marketplaces in the world as a marketplace development platform. You've obviously got the TSD side as well.
Yeah.
How do you pull together this personal side of this story?
Yeah.
And
It's a great question. I mean, look, we look at the world from the perspective that, people plus technology is always going to win either people alone or technology alone. So it is a combo, right? And advisors, when they access a platform like a marketplace of ours, it's really it's a tool that gives them access to Adam's point. And I think that, as I said, transactional efficiency is important. I think a platform that digital environment, it does help a lot. But I think you have to also think about the end customer, because when an advisor goes in and develops a deal and transacts through a marketplace and then shows that end customer how they can lifecycle manage what they purchased through a marketplace, add seats, remove seats, manage that environment. It creates an efficiency for the buyers, and the end buyers, that demographic is shifting. People want a digital experience. So I agree with Adam in the sense that you're not going to go to Amazon and remodel your house from purchases, but I do think that end buyers want to transact. We're seeing some incredible statistics on our marketplaces where, initial purchases are, starting to creep up, and once people learn how to use a digital experience, they use it, and they manage, and some transactions are transactional, but not all of them. And when they're transactional, it's okay. And advisors should get the benefit of that. And they've invested in a relationship, they've invested in a customer, they've built. If they can put a digital vending machine inside that organization and benefit from transactional sales that are, add-ons, changes, they should benefit from that. And that's our view. But are you gonna, have a digital first business that just sells into enterprise? That's not going to happen. Otherwise Amazon would already have done it, and we'd all be doing something else and not sitting here.
Yeah, I mean,
And Jay,
marketplaces are clearly massive, right? And certainly a valuable route to market for our partners, and they need to learn how to navigate them and use them and make them part of their skill set. If they're not, they're missing massive opportunity, and they're gonna lose to the partners that do, is my opinion. But I think your own data says, Jay, and I may be wrong exact number, but 70% of the marketplace transactions are partner assisted, right? So that means that even though the marketplace exists to transact and manage the life cycle of these SaaS licenses and other products in there, it really does require still an advisor to help them understand how to navigate, all the marketplaces, how to best understand where to place your business and take advantage of which marketplace and for which solution, and how to pick the right product in those. So it doesn't remove the role or value of the advisor. It actually in a lot of ways makes the advisor more compelling, because the choices are in some ways more complex and less obvious in those routes to market with those various complex marketplaces, and spend and burn down contracts and things like that. You talk to Amazon, they're a financial institution. They're not the home remodeler. They're a financial institution, and most of their enterprise contracts are structured around a financial model, not a product model. And so that requires an advisor to understand how that actually works to unlock that opportunity within the customer.
Yeah,
the human element is key. I mean, 75% of world trade across all 27 industries goes indirectly. The dealerships, the advisors, the brokers, the resellers, retailers, the franchisees, the gas stations, the pharmacies, the grocery stores, every industry you walk through, 75% of their sales has that human connected. And we don't see anything different here, because marketplaces don't consult or design. They don't architect or implement or integrate. They don't manage. That's kind of where I want to go next, is kind of on the managed services side. We brought it up a little bit earlier. Rick, maybe I'll get you first on this one, because I interrupted you there. But managed services this year, shocking to most, is going to be $650 billion in spend. It's over 10% of our industry overall. And 82% of customers outsource, some or all of their spend on a recurring basis now. And to put 650 billion in perspective, it's bigger than the SaaS industry. If you take all the love for Salesforce and ServiceNow and Workday, Marketo, NetSuite, HubSpot, it's also bigger than the hyperscalers all combined. Not just AWS or Microsoft or Google, but go take Alibaba and go take Oracle and everybody below them. Those two markets are smaller than managed services is today. So it is large. It's very customer adopted. By the way, the new majority millennial buyer loves, teamwork and to outsource, whether tasks or, entire, things. How does managed services come together in your market? If I was, for example, an MSP and maybe have a legacy broadline distribution relationship today, what could I gain from a TSD relationship? If I'm not in managed services today, what should I be thinking about, and how could you help introduce that kind of recurring, sticky market to us? So maybe Rick, go first, and I'll ask a couple others.
Yeah, and I was just going to say on that last question, I mean, just the irony in your original question of are TSTs too big, right? I mean, if you look back, I was just going to say, if you look back to 10 years ago, we were asking, are TSDs big enough? Are they sophisticated enough? Are they more than just contract vehicles? So it's very ironic how far things have come over the last 10 years or so. But I would just say from a managed services perspective, we're seeing this at Avant. The TA movement towards the managed services space. Companies are wanting to do more with less at the end of the day, and managed services are very much in vogue. So they're wanting, trusted advisors are wanting more options. They're wanting more training around that. And that's a big focus for us in 2026. So that's something that we are bringing to the table for them, and it's absolutely a focus. So very much so, we're seeing that in the marketplace, Jay.
That's great. So maybe Brian, I can pull you back in on this question.
Yeah. So I'll give you a little different perspective. We are a managed services provider. We made two significant investments through two large acquisitions a little over 3 years ago for companies that did consulting and managed services. So we realized that it's one thing to sell it, it's another thing to professionally implement and manage it. At the same time, we also found that customers in many instances are, if they're unhappy with their existing technology platform that they're using, it's not necessarily that the technology platform itself has issues, it's their own use of it. So this division within the company sometimes comes in after the fact and helps fix what's broken, builds a tremendous amount of credibility and loyalty with the customer, allows us to increases the likelihood of them using us for their next project.
Yeah, that's great. Emmanuel,
Yeah,
what's
look,
your take on managed services?
Yeah, on the managed services, I mean, we're seeing growth there as well. And I think, as I said, the people plus technology matters a lot, and people, the services that people are adding is really valuable. Like if you look at a lot of product suppliers right now, they're starting to up the bar on competencies, and they're making sure that people that are distributing have the correct levels of competencies. And the reason is that they want to make sure that they've got the services around the products, so that Brian's point, you're not adopting a product poorly in an environment and reflecting badly on the product. So I think as we move forward, we're going to see more and more, necessity for investment in managed services, and the growth in the size of this is obvious in the sense that these products can't flourish without the people around them making them fit the environments and fit the enterprises. So it's a growth area. And I think it's almost a mandatory coupling of products. Like we're going to see more and more vendors make it very mandatory that, advisors have the competencies to actually deliver and manage with products, whether you're an MSP or a VAR, like straight distribution, I think is going away.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Jay, I think you look at the largest suppliers in our portfolio, some of the large cable cos, I mean, they've invested over the last 5-6 years in companies that have driven them into more technical managed service companies as well. And if you look at their Rolodex of top 10, top 20 customers that they've sold in the last 2-3 years, the 6-7 digit deals, those would not have come without those acquisitions, I believe. And those would have went to aggregators, or they would have piecemealed and, 1/3 or 2/3 of those deals that they now have, almost single provider market share of. And that's just a testament, I mean, that's a leading edge indicator, that managed services is the key and the most important factor we're looking at in some of these opportunities.
Yeah, and it's much more complex. The average managed deal has, 20 elements. We talked about cybersecurity, you talked about data and compliance and other things, but you think about the proactive monitoring, you think about the life cycle, asset and management services. Adam, kind of when you take in that complexity, is this kind of a perfect fit for this TSD model to, back up, whether it's a one-person shop or an 8-person shop or even a 28-person shop? Is this a way to on-ramp quickly into managed services?
It is. When you look at the advisory motion, it is much more about the sales motion. The reason I think MSPs are so successful in the channel today and probably our fastest growing category, it's the same story as cyber. Cyber has been hot for a long time. Cyber threats have been out there. VARs have been selling point solutions, turning the screwdriver, implementing, and then managing. And we were not participating in that. The reason we participate in cyber today is because a management wrapper was placed around it. And when there's a management router layer on network or anything else, we can sell that. And that is effectively MSP. That's managed services. So scaled MSPs we see are having significant success with advisors. They always have a challenge with new logo addition. They are built by engineers who want to solve problems, not by salespeople who want to make things happen. And that's why the marriage of the advisor with the MSP is so powerful. And I believe for the next couple of years, that will be the fastest growing category. Now, that's true for scaled MSPs that have some heft and scale, not necessarily for the subscale MSPs. I don't think they'll find a place in our portfolio. It is the larger, more capable MSPs that I think are the next wave.
That's fantastic. So, I mean, we've covered a ton of ground. We talked about people, we talked about processes and products and technology. We talked about this quarter, we talked about this year. I want to spend our remaining time, maybe a minute and a half to 2 minutes each, just kind of projecting further down the line. No one can predict 5 or 10 years away. Maybe we'll all be retired on an island somewhere. But the fact is, as an advisor, as somebody VAR, an MSP dialing in this industry, fastest growing industry, how should I look at the next 3 years? And how should I, kind of think in a longer term planning where I should be, what kind of relationships I need to build, where I need to double click on, kind of open ended. I'm going to go in reverse alphabetical order by name. So I'm going to go Ryan first this time. Just kind of play it out further long term for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think the complexity curve still outpaces the education and the ability for the customer to manage it. And I think that makes the channel very essential to, the business decisions. And I think that, you'll see that range of business decisions or technology buying coming through the channel, it'll still hover around that 70-75% range, I think. And, as things continue to be more complex, I put it this way, the top partners out there are always coming to me and in my ear talking about, the next thing, and they're learning and they're educating themselves, and they don't sell it for almost 2 years. And then they're, executing some of the largest sales in this industry. And I don't think that's going to slow down at any point, anytime soon. And from a TSD standpoint, I think we're going to keep, focusing our resources on education, on enablement. Obviously, tools and resources get you to the on-ramp fast. We know that, time kills deals, so you still have to get in the on-ramp very quickly. But I think over the next 3 years, you're going to see, these partners and these trusted advisors coming to us more for like, we need more resources, we need more, technical expertise. We need to learn more about the complexity of the technology stack. And everybody in this room is being hit by probably a line around the quarter with new suppliers, new technologies, new risks. And that's where we can really enable our partner community and enable the end customer to make the right decision. So I think over the next 3 years, you're just going to see continued growth with more complexities, and the partners that embrace and learn and put the work in themselves, I think, are going to see the benefits. And we will have the ones lagging behind and kind of stuck in the mud. But I think this is the outlook is definitely a hockey stick up to the right.
Appreciate that. Rick, what's your crystal ball?
Yeah, I think, Jay, that one of the things that really gets myself and Avant excited and should get the trusted advisors excited is the new and exciting vendors that are entering this space. and also entering it in a channel-led or a channel-only route to market. So I think that's what keeps us that gets us really excited and bullish about the future. But I agree with Ryan. Like when I travel around and I talk to trusted advisors, the one question I get is, what are the top trusted advisors doing? What are they doing? What do we need to replicate, right? I'll end with this. I don't think there's a better time for a trusted advisor to be indispensable to their customers. What do I mean by that? Really, it's about building. I mean, this is a people business at the end of the day. I mean, we can talk about our platforms and all that kind of stuff, but are you building those true relationships with your customers? Are you that trusted advisor that is selling 1.2 services or 4 services to your customer? I know where I'd want to be, right? And I also just I'd lead with this is, are you investing? Are you becoming more sophisticated? Are you investing in your people? Are you investing in your processes? Are you investing in education for your team, and getting uncomfortable till you do that so you can reach other things? So, we're pretty excited. We threw out a lot of stats. It's all looking great, but at the end of the day, it's pretty cool to see what our trusted advisors have done over the last year and 5, 10 years and where they are now. So it's exciting times, Jay.
Thank you so much for that. So, Ken, you run a top 15 distributor and a top 6 TSD at the same time. Looking ahead kind of 3 years on the broader market, that $6 trillion market that we talked about, what's your advice for those dialing in?
Yeah, I think a little bit of what Rick just said. I think the customers are really looking for more from our advisors, right? They are asking the advisors to be, as we talked about at our last channel conference, to be more architects than just people that help them pick the right solution. And so it's really important for our partners to dig deeper into their skill sets, dig deeper into the services that they're offering, and really look at their businesses holistically to say, maybe not every dollar that enters into my business looks like the traditional agent dollar. Some of those dollars are going to be, SaaS dollars. Some of those dollars are going to be services dollars. Some of those dollars are going to be agent dollars. Some of those dollars are going to be consulting dollars, whatever they are. But they need to be comfortable with the fact that not every dollar looks the same. Not every dollar is split up the same. And, their business really shouldn't look the same in 5 years as it does today if they want to be in the top 5 or 10% of the advisors 5 years from now. So, we're investing in programs and tools and people that will hopefully be there to help them make that transition. And I think that's what's going to separate the weak from the strong, for sure.
All right. Thank you, Ken. Emmanuel, take us forward.
Yeah, look, I think advisors, we all know their relationships are gold. And my take is like if you have a relationship and you can expand that to be a multi-category relationship inside your enterprise, you're going to grow tremendously. And we're looking at it, AppDirect's perspective on it is, there's certainly products you can sell, but we're also creating a lot of white labeled products that can give that advisor the ability to sort of plant solutions, whether it's a white labeled marketplace inside for procurement distribution, whether it's our VCOM products for unified lifecycle management of all the different products inside the advisor that can be white labeled inside the enterprise, AI products inside. Like it's really about arming the advisor with the products that are going to help them expand that relationship inside the enterprise. And I think it's much more than just selling a SaaS license and selling a technology license. It's really providing the upfront advisory and then that lifecycle product that can be installed that really creates value long term.
Appreciate that. Brian, another hybrid business. You're obviously in front of the customer as an advisor at times, as an MSP, as well as a TSD. Kind of take us forward kind of with that lens, right from customer outwards on how you see the next kind of 3 years playing out.
So the great news is consumption is still going to grow at a fast pace. The channel, although some people are not as forward thinking and don't realize that the channel is a success-based expense versus an effort-based expense, which is a lot of times on the direct sales side, it's the old 80-20 rule. You have someone denting a seat cushion for 18 months, you're paying their salary, benefits, et cetera. They haven't closed a deal. But all the suppliers that have been in the channel for a long period of time are doubling down and investing in it. So with that, the other side of it is the channel is no longer the best kept secret. Every VAR, system integrator, consultant is leveraging this channel to monetize their Rolodex. So what that means for people today, if you don't step up your game, it will be very difficult to succeed. We've been extremely active in M&A and investments. So we've seen a lot of businesses of people that have been doing this for 15 years, have built amazing books, and they're attriting because they haven't made the adjustments, they haven't done the education, they haven't aligned themselves with the right partners. And so, the thing that, I tell people all the time, and this isn't just a Bridgepointe, advertisement, but you need to align yourself with the right people. It's too competitive out there. It's too complex. Unless you're a unicorn, just the game's changed and you got to change with it.
That's fantastic. And I think we're going to end with Adam, not only alphabetically, but according to our research, Telarus slightly took the edge in revenue of the six. So with double-digit growth and that vantage point, Adam, can you kind of take us home with where we go in the next 3 years?
Yeah, there are two fundamental truths I think about this, and we build off of those. Number one is that the customer prefers, in a time of fragmentation and complexity, the customer prefers to associate with an advisor. I attended a great event from a partner. A partner put together this event, 400 end users, CIOs, CTOs, and listened to one of the panelists who said, "Look, I go to them with everything. I've known them for 2.5 years now. I'm getting wined and dined by every cybersecurity. I don't have time for it. I go to them first." And what happens is people look for a proxy when there's confusion, when there's misinformation, when there's a lot of data out there that's conflicting. We all go to proxies, whether it's our doctor or someone who's reading the science too. We're not doing the experiments, but that proxy matters, and advisors are that proxy. I would tell the advisors to reach in. It can be intimidating coming to these calls. You hear about all the success, and maybe you feel like, man, I'm not there yet, or I'm not getting it. It's there for you. Put one foot in front of the other. The resources are there. The investments are being made. But most importantly, that one thing, customers want to engage with you. They want the help, and you just need to be ready for it. The resources are out there. Telarus is here to help you. Each of these great companies are here to help you. That's how we're successful. Is when you're successful. So that is my advice to anyone: is stay the course. Invest in yourself, and reach out for help, because there's plenty of it around.
That's great. And with 35,000 vendors raising private equity money, hiring more inside reps, that's more cold emails, that's more cold calls to that customer. They're going to come to the trusted advisors that much quicker in the future. So I think that's my view of the future. Thank you so much to the panel. I want to pass it back to Ellen.